Right. Next presentation is going to be from Matt, who works at Possible, and it's going to be about science fiction in films and how we design the future.
Hi, everyone. The title kind of explains itself, I guess, really. It probably sounds a bit blue sky when you read that title, and how in the hell does this relate to UX? And I promise you I'll try and explain that at least halfway through this presentation. Fingers crossed. What are we actually going to talk about? So I'm not going to sit here and kind of go on to you about we're all going to be in flying cars in 100 years time and we're going to be transported up into a spaceship. This originally came from a dissertation I wrote whilst at university, and if I'm quite honest with you, the reason why I started writing about this was because I had about 6 weeks left to write my dissertation, as most people do, and I thought, what's the best way I can get away without having to read a lot? So I thought, I can write about films, and I was doing part design at the time. And I thought, okay, we'll explore this. And ever since then, to be quite honest with you, it's been a bit of a bug of mine. And I've noticed quite a lot of a resemblance with all sorts of design, which is quite nice. And UX is really quite important, and I can't quite stress it enough, and then you'll see why. This is just a really random range of films rather, and just little ways of how technology in them is kind of influenced or is influencing technology as we're going. And as I said, we're not talking about the flying ships, I'm talking about the interfaces that you see within a film, right? So you see the pieces of technology they're interacting with. And what's quite nice and what's happening now with audiences is because visual effects are becoming so powerful now, audiences are really smart. They'll pick up on when something's rubbish or it doesn't quite work, and they won't believe it. So that ruins the whole experience, not just the film, but that bit of technology that they're trying to produce. But before we jump a bit further, I want to kind of run back a little bit and kind of just look at where this has come from. There we go, cool. So this is originally early 20th century in Italy. There was a movement called futurists, or futurism rather, and they were futurists, and basically they were all about the future. They were all about speed and technology, and it was a big thing, and it was portrayed through everything, not just design, it was art, and even a key one actually is literature. And I'm sure you've all heard of Philip K. Dick, great author. He's written some amazing short stories, and some great films have been based on them. Just obviously noticeably Blade Runner, Minority Report, Philip K. Dick, right? So really, really big visionary, right? So he's not there sketching stuff out, it's his imagination, it's how he envisages the future. And what's quite amazing is that this is a gent writing stuff before there wasn't even a mobile phone around, it was really quite forward-thinking stuff. And then guys, there you go, Philip K. Dick, and a really lovely quote was reality is that which, when you stop believing in it, it doesn't go away. And I quite like that, and I think that's really important for us, right? And again, I'll reiterate why UX is so important. But it's really important. So Sid Mead is another gent. This guy's a living legend still, thankfully, and he started out in industrial design, designing stuff for automotive industries and product industries, and but his real love was futurism. He was really designing stuff for the future, a real great illustrator. And he went on to designing architectural buildings and interiors, but really futuristic stuff for his time, right? And then the film industry saw him and said, no, we really like what you're doing, we really like your vision, we want you to come and design for us. And a great quote of his is, designers in all disciplines, I remember all disciplines, right, have the inevitable task of creating possibilities beyond the limits of the mundane and predictable, to invent not just the idea, but the rationale for futures not yet within the grasp of available technique. Now, I think that's a massively important quote, right? This is a guy that's saying it's our responsibility to decide not what's going on now, because it's happened, it's done, it's finished. It's what's going to be happening in not just 6 months' time, a year's time, or 5 years' time, but 10 years' time. And that's our job, I personally think, anyway. And it's a huge task, it's a big responsibility. And so these are just a few of the films he's had a real kind of impact on, and it's nice, Blade Runner, very, really old school film, I love it, it's great. Right up to the latest Tron. And what's really nice is I'll point out a few things in what he's done, but he was really quite visionary for his time when you're looking at stuff that had just been invented really, and he's kind of taking it to the next level, well ahead of his time. So this is an image of a lovely 1970s home entertainment system there sitting on the wall, and then Sydney went, nah, that's not the future. This is the future. Here's a guy where TV sets are really just slowly becoming, entering into the home, and then these big, horrible, massive boxes. And here's a guy saying, no, it's going to be on a wall. We're going to have really thin, systems to control our stuff with. And this is where technology like this wasn't even available at the time, right? So really, really forward thinking. And this is just a nice dream home entertainment system for everybody at home one day. But you can tell that from back in the 70s to what's going on now, he wasn't too far off. And this is an interior of a 1970s Volvo. This was a concept sketch for Blade Runner, actually, for the interior of a car. Now, don't get me wrong, we haven't got massive, huge screens and they're not driving themselves, but if you look at the detail, you've got schematics of buildings or streets here. So this is a gent saying where sat-navs haven't even been thought of yet. Here's a guy saying they could be sitting in your car, right? And we look at the new 2013 Volvo, so a little bit more smarter, yeah, a little bit nicer looking, but the concept's there, the idea's there, so, smart guy. Disney, believe it or not, are massive, massive futurists. Incredible. They have a whole team devoted to just future innovation. I think they're called the innovation team. I think it's amazing. And this chap here gets to run it. Lucky guy, right? So, and really cool. That's his job. That's his job. To sit around all day and think about what the future's going to be. So, and I know you're sitting here thinking, well, where we don't design products and we don't design technology, and that's fair enough, and we don't, and I agree. I'm not trying to say we are going to start designing technology and we are going to start designing products. But remember, it's UX, it's experience, right? So, keep that in mind. So, films call them diegetic prototypes. That's what you see in a film as a product. And what that does is it allows a designer to basically prototype an idea at a really, really high level for a fraction of the price. And then what we're doing with that prototype is they're placing it in a social environment. So this is where UX starts to slowly get linked in, right? So audiences, when I say audiences, I mean millions of people around the world are being subject to an idea that is nowhere near even comprehensible. But this is the really smart bit. It's whether an audience believes that idea or not. Now, if they don't question it, and they see that interface in the background, and they just blink, and it flies by them, then you've done a good job. They believe it. So, a gentleman called David A. Kirby came up with this idea. He's an author of Lab Coats in Hollywood, Science, Scientist and Cinema, and he wrote an essay of The Future is Now, Diegetic Prototypes. And don't get me wrong, there's another book called Make It So, by the way, I don't know, some of you might have heard it, and they touch on this, but they really just look at the comparisons of stuff you see in film and the stuff you see today. And he said, I introduced the term diegetic prototypes to account for the ways in which cinematic depictions of future technologies demonstrate to large public audiences the technology's need, viability. I can't pronounce that word, so I'm going to let you read it. I really can't, I'm not joking. And he goes on to say that a film's narrative structure contextualizes technologies within the social sphere. That's really important for me, right? The UX design, that's huge, because an audience is believing in that. And this is where we can start picking up those really nice insights, right? Because if an audience isn't questioning it, and they're thinking, oh yeah, well they walk away, and they say, that was really cool, I really like that, yeah, it's neat. We kind of start realising for a second, hang on, yeah, maybe there is a possibility for something like this. Maybe there is a small market. It might not have to do exactly what it shows in the film, but there's a chance to move that along, right? So example, we'll just look at an example. This is Tron, 1982, yeah? And this scene here, this picture is showing the big bad corporate guy sitting at his desk. And if you look, his computer is actually, you can't see it in the simulator unfortunately, but it's actually built into the desk. And he'll sit there and he'll type, and he'll type on the actual surface, right? This is 1982. Computers were just about, making their way into the homes, right? Then we had the Microsoft Surface. Okay, it wasn't massively successful, it was overpriced, but the theory was there, it was really, really nice, right? And you saw some beautiful interactions of people, sharing music, paying for bills at a restaurant, putting their card on the table and swiping the drinks that they had to their card to pay for them. And that's incredible. So I don't think this was not even 10 years ago this came out. And then you got a film from 1982 saying, nah, people are going to be using tables to interact with interfaces. It's pretty big stuff, guys. Yeah, it's pretty good thinking. And I kind of hope that we're doing the same now in not just in films but in design. So it's microservice, and then I don't know. I'm sure some people have been to an ammo before. You know, the restaurant where you can order your food off the table and play games, and it's a great first date if it's not going well and stuff like that. So, you know, so yeah, it's good. You know, it's really cool. I like it. Minority Report. It's a big. How can I not talk about Minority Report, right? Kind of the leader in motion, and swiping and using your hands and all that stuff. Very cool. Believe it or not, this technology was actually around before the film was about, right? But no one really quite believed in it. Well, not believed in it, but everyone thought, no way, it's too expensive. And why would I risk investing that much money in something where everyone's fine with a keyboard and a mouse, and we'll leave it at that. And then it's just another thing that films do. They get people excited, they get investors excited, you know? They're like, right, crap, no, people want this, let's throw loads of money at it. So that's kind of what happened. And this is the moment where I'm going to tell you where UX links into diegetic prototypes and designing for film, right? So we have a lovely colleague at Possible called Dale. This guy here, handsome fella. Chief Interaction Officer at Possible, and he actually, funny enough, was one of the people on the team that was asked by Steven Spielberg to come on and concept the interface that you see in Minority Report. And he's an interaction guy, he's a UX guy, and that was his job. And he's been kind enough to give me some of the sketches that he used and presented to Steven Spielberg for that film, right? Now, if we go along, what's really important, what he designed here is not just, it wasn't just him, don't get me wrong, there's a team of people, but he was one of the main people there. And the whole idea was, okay, right, it's fine, we have all these great interactive hand movements and stuff like that, gorilla arms and whatever, but how is the interface actually going to work? Because if you're watching a film and you've just seen a guy doing this, I'm directing people out of a building, you know, I'm not doing anything with it. And it's about this here, it's about this interface, right? This is what kind of sells it. This is the subconscious bit. This is where it's kind of coming in, where audiences aren't even questioning it because it's so believable, right? So I think in the next slide you can kind of see it better. I might be able to sit right on the screen there, but basically all this here is basically what he's saying is this is streams of media and data, right? And then as you can see, it kind of the visually here is kind of collating that, and then he goes on to explain in here like how those bits of data are pulled out and how they move, and it was a really important thought, and it was really quite nice in the fact that filmmakers are really realising that, as I said at the very start, audiences aren't stupid. They will not believe something if it's not done properly. And the reason why I use this as an example, and Dale's been really kind enough to give me his sketches, is because this has had a massive influence on the way we use technology now. So Connect, and there's some really nice stuff coming out soon where you're going to be able to adapt your computers to hand gestures and swipes, right? Now, what's really important is that from the very, very beginning concept of this, UX was thought about. Really, I know it's minute detail and it doesn't mean a lot now because, as I said, in a film it will blink like that and people won't realise it. But that's when you know you've done the job right, because they're subconsciously believing it and they're not questioning it, right? That's just important. UX was involved in that, so you know we should be quite happy about that. I'm proud we did something really cool. So it's a ripple effect. It has this great effect where, you know, we didn't see it then, but it's happening now. And it's really important to think about the stuff that we're designing for, not just for films. I'm talking about clients now. I'm talking about when you're sitting down with a client and they're saying, I have this idea, I want to do this, I want to do this thing. And you're like, cool, how can I do it in a month for them? And you just sort of think, okay, I'll solve the problem now, and that's great, and that's fine, but it's the wrong way about going about things, you know? You really need to start thinking about you know, the stuff, the technology that's coming out, and how it's going to affect your client in not just 6 months' time, but a year's time, 2 years' time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time, because they're going to be the ones that are going to want to come back to you because you know what you're talking about. So again, this is just Connect being used in the home, just playing with it. And again, the TVs are now even having the swipe interaction. I'm not 100% sold on these yet, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, you know, again, and this has all just come from one idea in film, small concept. So the big question is, who came first? Was it the designers or was it the filmmakers? Right? Big question, right? So, is it films that are depicting the way we're designing, or are we telling the films how to design? I think it's up for a debate. You could probably spend the whole evening kind of debating that. But in my opinion, I think they kind of fuel each other. I think that if it wasn't for film, I'm not saying we wouldn't get to the technology we have now, but I sure as hell don't think we'd be as far ahead as we are without it. Because I'm saying, as I said to you, these designs are kind of, they're exciting people and they're influencing people and they're encouraging people to keep pushing the boundaries of technology. I know I'm not just saying that film's a key reason why this is all happening, but it's definitely, I believe, a really big influence. So the next steps, I was warned not to say I'm going to make a prediction because it might be wrong, and in 5 years' time you'll be like, that guy's an idiot, right? But wait for it. There we go, cool. So this is, I love Iron Man, right? I freaked out when I saw this film, right? Not just because I like comics, but because you're seeing the future, right? And now I'm not saying in the next 5 years that we're going to have holographic interfaces that are going to float around the room, we're going to be interacting with them more and stuff like that. Yeah, that's a bit far-fetched. But in a second you'll see a bunch of screens where he's sitting at his desk in a minute. Right? This here, all this. That for me is the next thing. And the reason why it's really important I've brought this up anyway, is because it's going to change the way people interact and use interfaces. Not from a physical point of view, or using hand gestures, but the way we view them, the way things are going to be displayed, right? And it's huge. I think it's a really important part to think about. And because if you look at screens today, right, they're becoming more and more cluttered with windows. I mean, we can't get enough information, right? We love divulging it. More and more. And it's about how to display that. The screen's not going to do that. You know, it's starting to feel a bit limited, right? And then you've just got a square box. It doesn't matter how thin you make them. It's still going to be a box, right? And you're limited to a frame. So, again, Avatar, they kind of show a similar sort of thing, slightly 3D-ish, but or holographic rather. But there's a term for these. Give them a term. They're called stereoscopic 3D interfaces, right? And the reason why they're so different is the best way I can explain to you all is, are we okay? 5 minutes? Okay, cool. I'll be really quick, sorry. So when you watch a film, it's not in 2D, we know that, right? Okay, but a normal film, what it does is the photography of the camera chooses a point of focus for you. 3D doesn't do that, and that's why, you know, sometimes people get tired watching 3D film. It's because your eyes are constantly working, because you're the ones that are choosing the point of focus, which is really nice. That's what makes it so rich, and that's what makes it give it a real in-depth feel. And that's what screens are going to start doing. So you're going to start having not content on a flat surface, you're going to be pulling content forward. And this is where, from a UX point of view, we have to start thinking about is how are people going to interact with that? How are we going to display information? How are apps going to run with that? How are Windows, how are web browsers? How are we going to pull information forward when we don't want to see the information that's in front of us? How do we move stuff away? And again, this is where sort of hand gestures might come in. I'm not saying people are going to spend 7 hours a day working and doing this, but it's really small things. Really long quote from, this is James Cameron, and basically the quote's saying he's encouraging Microsoft to really start thinking about how their interface is going to kind of deal with this new technology coming up. And this is a film director. He's got no, he doesn't deal with design, doesn't deal with technology, you know? So what does that got to do with UX? Big question, right? This is the final point, and I hope it sums it up for you, and you can comment to me later and go like, what the hell are you talking about? So, what are we doing? We're planting an experience in an audience's imagination. That's what we're doing, right? So they haven't actually physically experienced it, but they believed it. And that's the important part. And this is where the insights come in. This is where we can start picking stuff up, because if an audience believes it, then there might just be a possibility that it can be used and can be dealt with, right? So I come from a product design background, and there's two things I believe in that every designer should have, and not just if you're in product design or graphic, or you're a developer, or you're in UX, there's two things to be, in my eyes, to be really there and smart is entrepreneurship and innovation, right? And the reason why is we're in the technology business essentially, okay? And it's our jobs to see opportunities, right? Entrepreneurship. Where has something not been discovered yet? Then it's our job to take that opportunity and do something really smart with it. So entrepreneurship. So I'm not saying that we should do everything we see in a film and how it should be done, but we should be looking out for these things and looking out for these opportunities, right? We're saying, right, yeah, we could do something with that. But how am I going to put my own twist on it? How am I going to, where is this need best suited? And what can I do with that? And add my own twist and a bit of flair and a bit of identity to it. And hopefully, if you do those things right and you're smart about it, and you don't just do something for the sake of it, like I hate things being built for the sake of it. My God, there's nothing worse. It's pointless, right? You get a really nice experience from it. Okay? I'm just going to show you one quick example.
Hello, Mr. Yakamoto. Welcome back to the Gap. How does the sort of tank tops work out for you? Mr. Yakamoto.
Right, so I really like this, and the reason why is because it's a big thing at the moment, right? In-store experiences are becoming really huge, and how we're going to design those, and people are going to be interacting with products before they go in, and Burberry are doing some really cool stuff at the moment, and all that sort of stuff. But what's shown in this film, right, is the I think what's really important with Minority Report as well is they're showing the worst case scenarios of where we really don't want to be with technology in the future, right? And how can we avoid that? And that's what's really important. That's what's quite nice about the film as well. It kind of gives us a bit of a warning sign, again, with the social sphere of what's acceptable and what's not. And then a really smart group came up with this, and I'll probably 2 minutes.
We asked ourselves, why haven't Facebook check-ins gone mainstream? Check-ins provide a powerful mechanism for businesses to deliver discounts to loyal customers. But few businesses, and even fewer customers, are taking advantage of this. So we set out to evolve the check-in process by creating a seamless method for checking in and getting deals. Face Deals is an automated check-in system using passive facial recognition to notify you of in-store deals that are customized just for you. Cameras have been developed to identify Face Deals participants in a matter of seconds. To get started, log into Facebook and grant Face Deals permission. Next, verify your likeness to complete your profile. When a face is confidently recognized, the deal is set into action. Face Deals dynamically optimizes your deal based on your Facebook-like history and delivers your customized deal to your mobile device, all while checking you in. It's that simple. Developed by Red Pepper Lab.
It's that simple. Yeah, so they weren't affiliated. Well, okay, this is what's really nice, right? So they've taken a really touchy subject and they've done something fairly smart with it. I'm not saying it's going to work, I don't know. It's up to you guys to decide, really. But what's really nice about it is it's just a small, very small example of where a small company's taken a small idea that we've seen in a film and they've done something with it. I kind of hope that it's related to UX in some way to you guys. I really do. I really think there's a massive area for us to be really kind of helping shape the way we interact with technology in the future. And there's one last thing I want to leave you with. Next time you watch a science fiction film and you see an idea, just pay a slight attention and just think to yourselves for a second, can I do something with that? And if you can, good luck with it. So, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I have time for a couple of quick questions. Yes, please.
Hi. Sorry, you said that those creative people, that they're really futurists, they could see the future ahead of their time. Did you come up with any solution? How did they come up with those?
Yeah, so that is a really good question. I'm not saying they had a mystic ball when they saw into the future and stuff like that. These are just general like guys or ladies and gents sitting around, sort of just kind of seeing what's going on now and being just really smart about the way they design something. I think that's what's really important, and this is where UX can play a massive role, because the whole point of futurism is designing blue sky, right, and come out with these cool ideas, and that's great. But how are they going to work? And I can't say how they came up with those ideas. I'd love to, because I'd be in their position as well. It'd be pretty sweet. But I think it's really important to just kind of understand, and Dale's example is a perfect example of they could have just gone really wild with that design, and they could have ruined it, and it could have been unbelievable, and we might not quite be where we are now at this very point. But it's because they really thought about the small detail in those. And I'm not saying that we should all be sitting there and coming up with these crazy ideas. Well, we should. It's great to do that. But I think when you start doing stuff for your clients, for example, it's really important to bear these in mind and just kind of pay attention to your surroundings a little bit and what's going on. And it's just a form of inspiration. My God, you can get it from anywhere. It doesn't have to be film. It's just, that's what I've noticed and that's what I've picked up on. And I think it's a great opportunity.
Thanks very much for an inspiring talk, and I just wanted to query Minority Report really, because are we going backwards? I just went to see Oblivion on Monday.
Oh, see, I haven't seen it yet, so you're ahead of me already.
Well, it's kind of depressing because it's a gestural interface, but there's nothing new there. So.
Please don't ruin it for people who can't.
Not going now.
I think the way stuff looks and stuff, and that's kind of everyone's. That's the whole point of design, right? And that's the whole point of being able to take critique, is you can't please everyone, and that's the fun thing about. That's what I like. And in design, if I can annoy someone, it's might be a bit more fun actually. But it's kind of that whole idea of that's the way you might not like something, but I think what's really important is to look at, have they really thought about the way that's going to work, and I know it's just a film, but it's really important because you'll realise as time goes on, these things will kind of have these little influences, and you'll be sitting there one day going, shit, I remember watching this in the cinema like 10 years ago, So, yeah.
Okay, so Matt is going to be around as well afterwards the chat. How are people feeling in terms of